We have heard from the political side of this ruling and the legal expert side of it just now, but there's a part of this abortion equation that we haven't heard much from over the last few months. That's from the provider's perspective. That would be the doctor. The other one in the room when the decision to have an abortion is made. And they're the ones on the receiving end of Senate Bill 1385 that will go into effect in Idaho sometime in August. It says here, let me read this to you. Every person who performs or attempts to perform an abortion as defined in this chapter commits the crime of criminal abortion. Criminal abortion, unless they can prove it was to save the life of a mother. So we wanted to hear from one of those people, a doctor who could lose their license and spend years in prison for providing an abortion. Dr. Lauren Colson is a family physician that provides obstetrics and reproductive care. And that includes options counseling, of which abortion is one of those options. Dr. Colson is a member of the Idaho Academy of Family Physicians and sits on the Reproductive Health Committee. He's also one of the state leaders for Reproductive Health Access Project. So he knows a bit about this stuff. And Dr. Colson calls this ruling by SCOTUS a huge step backwards for reproductive health care. This option, he told us, is needed because, well, it's an integral part of how they provide health care to their patients.
We know that without abortion access, that more mothers will die because they cannot get access to the care that they need. What we do know is that pregnancy is a dangerous condition for a lot of people, and that the United States has a pretty high maternal mortality rate already for a developed country, and that this is only going to make it worse. So even though that the law says that there's a provision for the life of the mother to allow for abortion, more mothers will still die because they will not have access to abortion care.
How do you weigh that with the rights of the unborn, which is the other side of this argument?
My belief, and the belief of our professional organization here, the Idaho Academy of Family Physicians, is that this is a very personal decision between the patient and the provider, and that is a decision that should stay in that area and not something that should be decided upon by anyone else, including our legislators.
You're going to be in this place where you're going to have to make a decision. Like, you will not be liable for this if the physician determined it is good faith medical judgment that the abortion was necessary to prevent the death of the pregnant woman. Are there going to be situations where you're going to have to weigh your legal options over your medical options?
Absolutely. It is not always clear at a appointment early on in the pregnancy, later on in the pregnancy, if the life of the mother is imminently in danger. There will definitely come a time when a patient is concerned based on their own health risks that they might have pregnancy complications and that they don't want to continue the pregnancy for that reason, but in that moment, it might be hard to justify that that is to protect the life of the mother, because it would be theoretical at that point. They wouldn't have had that complication already, and by the time they have that complication, it might be too late.
Like what instances would that be the case?
Probably the most prevalent one would be a condition called preeclampsia, where a woman develops high blood pressure, and then a lot of different organ failure problems, such as swelling of the brain, seizures, and ultimately can lead to death. And that doesn't usually happen until later on in the pregnancy.
Does it happen that people are given this risk assessment of preeclampsia and they say, I don't want to deal with that, and they make the decision to have an abortion?
Yeah, I would say that is one of many factors that the folks say, I want to be pregnant, but I don't want to put myself or my family at risk. These people aren't first-time parents. They have kids, they have a family already, and I think while they may even be excited about the pregnancy, it may not be an unwanted pregnancy. When they weigh that against, is it worth it for me to leave my family to die by continuing this pregnancy? A lot of them will come to the decision of, no, it's not worth it to me. I would not like to continue this pregnancy.
There's a lot of gray area, they say, when it comes to what's that medical decision versus the life of the mother kind of thing. What's it like to be in that gray area?
I think that that's what's hard for folks that don't have a medical background to understand, is that that is the area we always deal in, is gray area, and we're constantly weighing our decisions of these are the probabilities. What decision do you want to make as the patient? As part of our shared decision-making process, it's almost never a clear-cut answer on most of medicine. And so that's why it's super important to us that we continue to keep this between the patient and the provider, and for the patient to be able to make that choice if they feel that they need to make that choice based on the information that's been laid out in front of them.
How's this going to change your life, your job, your career going forward?
It's going to be really tough, because I think myself and my colleagues are going to feel like we have to make a decision for patients to continue a pregnancy that they may not want and to follow them throughout that entire process. So for 9 months, help them to manage themselves medically and carry a pregnancy that they don't want, that they expressed to us that they didn't want from the very beginning.
Dr. Colson says doctors as a species are pretty risk averse, and instead of having to face that gray area of abortion, most who now provide the option will likely just stop providing the option to avoid the chance of any legal trouble. He also told us right now a decision to have an abortion is 100% upon the patient. And when I asked if this ruling shifts some of that onus to the doctor to make that decision, worrying about the legal ramifications, Dr. Colson said, actually, that decision has already been made by Idaho lawmakers.